This was supposed to be just another ordinary morning in the entertainment industry. No red carpet, no awards, no film premiere. Yet within 30 minutes, every major outlet had dropped what they were doing. Because Yulong and Yang Mei Mei, the couple famous for never talking about their private life, suddenly called a closed press conference. No one knew why. But what they revealed that morning did not just shock the media, it changed the way millions of people around the world think about family, privacy, and love. Welcome to Update X24H. Today we take you inside the moment when Yulong and Yang Mei Mei finally revealed the truth about their secret first child. The room itself was unremarkable. Neutral walls, a plain backdrop, two microphones standing too close together, and rows of chairs filled with people who thought they had seen everything. These were reporters used to scandals, surprise announcements, and staged emotion. Yet, as they waited, there was a strange stillness in the air. A quiet that did not feel like preparation but like hesitation. When Yulong and Yang Mei Mei finally entered, it became immediately clear that this was not a performance. There were no stylists fussing behind them, no rehearsed smiles, no carefully orchestrated poses. Instead, they walked with the kind of careful, measured steps people take when they are carrying something fragile inside them. Yulong kept just half a step to the side, close enough to support, far enough to let her lead. Yang Mei Mei did not play to the cameras. Her gaze did not scan the room. It seemed fixed somewhere between the floor and the truth she knew she had to speak. In that moment, before a single word was uttered, the story had already begun. The atmosphere shifted from curiosity to a quiet understanding. Whatever was coming next mattered deeply to them. It was not the volume of her voice that captured the room, but its fragility. When Yang Mei Mei finally leaned towards the microphone, the tremor in her breath was louder than any shouted headline. She did not start with explanation or justification. She began with something far more human, an admission that they had been silent for a very long time. The words arrived slowly, as if each one had to be unpicked from years of restraint. She spoke of a truth they had locked away, not because it was shameful, but because it was too precious to expose. And then with one sentence she altered everything the room thought it knew about them. They had a first child, a life the public had never been told about. There was no explosion of noise, only a stillness that felt almost sacred. It became clear that this was not a twist crafted for ratings, but a confession shaped by sleepless nights and quiet negotiations with fear. The secret they could no longer carry was not a scandal. It was a child living quietly outside the reach of the world. To the outside world, their sudden absences were simply schedule changes and unforeseen adjustments. Behind those tidy phrases lay hospital corridors, whispered consultations, and a prognosis wrapped in careful language. The doctors spoke cautiously, but the meaning was unmistakable. The pregnancy was fragile, and every added pressure increased the risk. At the same time, their professional lives were moving in the opposite direction. Roles were being offered, contracts drafted, teams expanding. They were standing at the very peak of visibility just as they needed to become invisible. It was not an easy decision to step back, even briefly, from careers that had taken years to build. Yet, in late-night conversations and quiet car journeys between appointments, a new priority slowly took shape. They chose to retreat not as a strategy but as a shield. Public appearances were cancelled. Interviews were postponed. Their world narrowed to medical reports, test results, and the sound of heartbeats on a monitor. In these moments, they were not celebrities juggling opportunities. They were simply two people trying to hold on to both a life and a future that seemed constantly at risk of slipping away. For a while, their withdrawal seemed to work. The hospital became a small sanctuary, a place where they could exist without cameras or commentary. But privacy is fragile, and in their case it was not destined to last. One evening, subtle signs began to appear that the outside world had found its way in. Faces lingered a little too long near doors that should have remained anonymous. A mobile phone was raised, then lowered, as if its owner could not quite decide whether to take a risk. Questions were asked that did not belong to concerned visitors, but to people searching for a story. Somewhere information had slipped through the cracks. The most unsettling moment came when someone attempted to move closer to the intensive care unit, towards the very area where their child was fighting for strength. A nurse intervened discreetly but firmly, guiding the stranger away before any harm was done. No confrontation erupted, But a boundary had been tested. That night, sitting in the dim light of the hospital room, they understood that their silence alone was not enough. The world's curiosity, however unintentional, could become a threat. From that point on, secrecy was no longer just about privacy, it was about safety. In the years that followed, the choice they had made revealed its quiet rewards. Away from headlines and speculation, a little boy grew up without knowing that his existence had once been the subject of whispered rumors and hidden fears. His world was small, but in the best possible way, defined by the rhythm of ordinary days and the warmth of familiar voices. His milestones did not trend online, yet they were celebrated with genuine astonishment at home. First steps taken across a cluttered living room. First drawings pinned to a fridge, not shared with millions. First song sung off-key but with absolute conviction. These were victories that needed no audience beyond the two people who had once sat by an incubator and prayed for exactly this. They built rituals that belonged only to their family. Late-night storytelling under blankets, small handwritten notes tucked into pockets, quiet weekend walks where he could ask as many questions as he liked. In these moments, his parents were not negotiating public perception. They were answering inquiries about clouds, dinosaurs, and why the moon sometimes looks larger than usual. In many ways, the life they had hoped for him was not grand, but it was deeply intentional. A childhood measured in memories, not in publicity. Time has a way of softening certain tensions, but it also allows new ones to emerge. As their careers continued, keen observers began to notice patterns, to speculate, to stitch together fragmented details into stories that were never entirely accurate. At first, the couple chose what they had always chosen: silence. However, silence can be misread. As vague suggestions grew into confident claims, they realized something important. If they continued to say nothing, their son's story might be reshaped into something distant from the truth. It might become a rumor, a myth, or even a weapon in conversations that cared more about impact than integrity. They spoke not because they were forced to buy evidence, but because they were guided by responsibility. This press conference was not a moment of surrender to gossip. It was an act of reclaiming the narrative. By sharing just enough to explain, and withholding what deserved to remain private, they drew a careful line. Their decision was not about inviting the world into their family. It was about making sure that if their son's existence was to be discussed, it would be anchored to honesty and framed with respect, rather than left to speculation. What do you think about their decision? If you were in their position, would you have done the same? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. With kindness, empathy, and respect. If this story touched you, if you believe more people should see the human side of the stars they follow, then please, white heavy checkmark, subscribe to Update X24H. White heavy checkmark, turn on the notification bell, so you never miss our next deep dive story. White heavy checkmark and share this video with someone who needs a reminder that love can be quiet, but still incredibly powerful. Thank you for watching. Thank you for spending your time with us today. And we'll see you again in the next story, here on Update X24H.